Hey everyone, today I'm going to be doing a little bit different of a video. It's going to take some inspiration from a channel known as Squirrel Monkey. What they do is they take sort of modern technologies and try to portray them as 80s style, so they'll give you an advertisement of it that's very 80s looking, and then also talk about a scenario where if it was around in the 80s or 90s. So the one I'm going to be talking about today is Google's very own Stadia project. First, I'll talk about what it is and where it stands in the modern day. Talk a little briefly about that. I won't go super in depth. And then I'll try to talk about a way that this model of gaming could exist in an 80s or 90s scenario. So, what is Google Stadia now, and what is its intention? So, as you see from this model here, Google wants to be able to put video games onto their cloud servers, which, using the cloud servers, will be streamed to multiple Stadia consoles. So a Stadia console won't actually be running the game, it will just be streaming the game from Google's servers to the console, which will be connected to the TV. So this is very different for gaming than what we're used to. And then scrolling further down, so it'll just be a server is running the cloud and the games will be on the cloud. So this is aimed to compete with Xbox and PlayStation. It takes sort of a different approach because neither of the two that I mentioned run their games this way. They're all ran straight off of the console. So it has some potential. A cloud-based console playing a single-player game like The Witcher 3 or something, even with the technical issues that you could think of, such as the delay, that wouldn't matter as much just on paper, because if you're playing a single-player game, chances are it won't be that big of an issue. Multiplayer games, though, if there's too much of a delay when it comes to playing the games, then there could be some issues. But for the most part, in the modern era, this kind of gaming model could actually have a stance. I say could because the other thing we still have to think about is that PC still exists, and to a degree you could do most of this with PC. In fact, I can actually run games or stream games from my personal PC to my phone when I'm on a different network than it. So I can already kind of accomplish something similar to this just for personal use. But obviously there's a price difference there. So I think it's going to slot into people that don't want to pay too much for a beefy PC that can stream games like that. But it's definitely not going to become the king of gaming, in my opinion. So with that out of the way, we'll move on to the next part. So obviously it has current questions like how much can it support, what kind of games, and can phones use the service. So that's all where it stands in the modern day, but how would this be possible in like the 80s or 90s? Well, obviously it wouldn't be cloud fueled because the cloud didn't even exist back then. Everything was just kind of mainframes and then your simple massive computers with the fat back screens. So in that case, something that could potentially be used that could mimic this is if you had a mainframe that was running a website that had a game on it. So like you put Pong on there or some older game, and it would have trouble. Well, it would have trouble with a more complex game if you were trying to stream it, because you would have to be connected to the website, and the website would have to be able to read input from the keyboard. But the thing is that you would easily be paying for a subscription because Google's Stadia is subscription based. So that's the first thing. The other is that based on the old hardware and how much harder it would be to scale, you would have only a certain amount of people that could do it. It's probably possible. You could probably run a website that would do it. but it would have to be a smaller game, and also you have to realize there was Nintendo's consoles out at the time, like the SNES. So games that were running on those would probably still be better than games trying to use this model back then. But it's probably possible. I mean, I wasn't around during those times, so I can't say for sure because I didn't use most of that technologies. But just in theory, if you were going to have something like this, it would be mainframe running a website, and then people would have to pay to connect to it. It could be used in some scenarios, like you're home on your computer and you just want to play a game real quick on the computer to take a break. Then you would just pull up the website that you have your subscription for, and then play the game. So this is how I think that something like Google Stadia could have existed back then. It wouldn't be the most convenient, but it probably would be possible. So I guess that's all for the video, because I've related this to back in the 80s. So thank you for watching.